Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nicole, for that introduction. And I think that this presentation is going to dovetail very nicely with the previous presentation, which was fantastic. I agree. This kind of takes it to a different level and talks about how we can integrate all different kinds of spaces into this hybrid workplace, leveraging the power of intelligent video. So some data here as well, right? So this is based on research, and I'm not sure this could be in partnership with Microsoft or Gartner. Not sure about that, but it is definitely in partnership with one of those. But hybrid work requires intelligent video. We'll talk a lot about why that is and what intelligent video means to fostering good hybrid work and engagement, right? Those are the things that we really need for today's workforce, you know, as supported by all the previous data and this data here. It provides the best experience for every attendee if we have, you know, intelligent video and good sound and those things. And when I mean every attendee, I mean not only the folks in the far end who may be working from home, but the folks in the room as well. We'll talk about how simple camera placement can really enhance the in-room experience as well. Remote and in-person attendees get full experience of the meeting if we really do pay attention to these concerns. And we get a more connected and engaged workforce, and that really is the bottom line, right? 35% of workers use video calls to feel connected and valued, and 87% increase in employee retention when engagement increases. So we're really trying to connect those dots, right? Connect the remote workforce with the in-person workforce, and sometimes the in-person workforce is kind of hybrid remote themselves. They may be participating from their desks from opposite sides of the buildings. So it really is important to create a sense of community by fostering these technologies. So how do we enable the room with these technologies? Number one, video collaboration, right? Exceptional audio and video is key. Meeting equality for in-room and remote attendees. Both of them have to have a similar type of experience. You know, for so long, we've really been concerned about the disenfranchisement of the remote attendee and not being able to benefit from the in-person collaboration. But in some ways, they've also been advantaged, right? They can do side chat and benefit from multiple screens and see a lot of things happening at once. Where they were disadvantaged was seeing body language and individual faces. But now technology is in place to fix both of those equations, right? Between things like Microsoft Front Row that enables side chat in the room, and intelligent video, which follows the conversation for the foreign participant. And it's very important that these technologies are available in every single shared room or common space or, you know, meeting room. It used to be very selective on which rooms got the video treatment. Now it really is every room. Because if I'm having a meeting in a facility, chances are at least one participant, I'm going to want one person there who's not there, right? Who may be working remotely in some far-flung place, or just, you know, that's the rotation out of the office. So we really do need to enable these technologies in just about every single room if we're going to build a room in the first place. It's going to need to be video enabled. Number two, in-person collaboration. We want folks to come into the office, and different companies are approaching this in different ways to spur that spontaneous conversation. You know, that doesn't really necessarily occur when it's a scheduled meeting, right? I'm not going to think to schedule a video call to have spontaneous collaboration. But when you do go to the office and encounter your coworkers in the hallways or run by their desks, you know, you kind of go down all these rabbit trails of collaboration that are productive, right? Yeah, it's a little bit of catching up, but it's very productive. So we want to foster that as well. But every space becomes a high value space for these collaboration. And again, we need to include the foreign participants. So 1 and 2 really do go together. They are married for at least the foreseeable future. And scaling room operations is very important. That's something that's really core to Crestron's DNA and philosophies, is that we've got to be able to scale from the very smallest and most personal of spaces to the largest spaces and have a solution for all of those spaces. So you're going to see as I go through this presentation that it's very space centric, right? We are right sizing the technology and solutions for the spaces and how they're used. And when you do have those spaces, right, it's going to be great to monitor and manage those spaces on a macro level to see how they're being used, to push firmware updates, to change settings, to participate in remote support very easily from a remote distance. Because in many ways, our IT personnel are also hybrid or perhaps not on-prem to help support these tasks too. So we offer tools like XIO Cloud in that mix as well. So a little bit about the enterprise, right? We've been working with this pyramid at Crestron for some time, and for the longest time, Crestron was very well known for the top of the pyramid, right? These medium meeting rooms, large high-value spaces, and multi-purpose spaces. The Crestron rooms, right? But over time, especially over the last 5 years, there's been a conscious effort to enable more technology and more collaboration in the smaller spaces as well. So that's what you're going to see as we go through this timeline. Right? In 2017, we introduced the Crestron Mercury Conference solution. And that was like a real big first foray into software-based hybrid hardware solutions. And even before that, going back to 2013 with the Link Room systems, partnering with Microsoft, we've been doing this for a very long time. But as we've gone forward in time, we've just enabled more and more space types. 2017, we brought Huddly into the mix, which enabled very small conference rooms and huddle spaces. 2018, we introduced soundbars for places where it's just great to have the technology up off the table, including the touchscreens and the AV. In 2020, we introduced purpose-built touchscreens for the medium and large meeting spaces. In 2020, we introduced a smaller size of our Mercury for those smaller spaces. In 2021, we partnered with Shure to put a DSP right onto our codec, onto our compute for the largest spaces, right? So we're kind of tackling both ends of the spectrum at all times. And in 2021, we introduced our Microsoft Teams phones, which have now evolved into the Microsoft Teams display devices, which I'll talk about in a moment. But this is way at the small end of the spectrum, right on the desktop in personal offices and maybe phone booths and places like that, the smallest of spaces. And again, with Jabra in 2021, enabling a certain space type where you've got furniture right up against the wall with a 180-degree camera view, right? And in 2022, wireless conferencing, where I just want to come into a room and use my computer as the communications platform, but leverage the nice AV in the space, but not have to plug a thing in. It's all happens wirelessly via wireless conferencing. Very convenient for your workers to just come in, connect, and go without having to plug in a single wire. So again, really trying to accommodate how people work in different organizations, accommodating Teams, accommodating Zoom, accommodating direct guest join with WebEx as well. And now into a whole different kind of space, Crestron has acquired One Beyond, and you may be familiar with them. If you haven't, I'll walk you through it a little bit because it's really cool stuff that enables a very special kind of room. One Beyond is not a new company. They've been around for a long, long time, and they are the industry-leading multi-camera intelligent video solution. They deliver a multi-camera solution that creates an immersive meeting experience, and I'll talk about that in a bit. And it really is a broadcast-like experience. Think of council chambers or school auditoriums for distance learning, where you really want to track the presenter, and you may have had a camera joystick, camera operator, maybe someone operating a switcher previously. This really does automate all of that without the need of a human operator. So you get the benefits of a human operated space without the cost of a human operator. So we really can bring this level of production to spaces that would not have had any sort of operator previously. The technology excels in rooms of all sizes, especially these large custom spaces. Think like lecture halls and high value meeting rooms, multi-use spaces and divisible spaces, right? This really does plug that gap. Right, that's where a lot of systems and solutions stop scaling. Right, they're good for the medium, they're good for the large, but what do I do now? Right, now you start to get to these really large custom spaces, and it gets a little tricky. Now, Teams display device kind of takes that offboarding what you would have normally done on your laptop and offload it to a separate dedicated piece of hardware. Why do that? Screen real estate, right? If I've got an incoming call, it's super nice to just be able to hit answer on this dedicated device and not interrupt my workflow that I was already doing on my computer. I can chat from it. I can see basically everything you can do in Teams, you can do on this dedicated device, simply to offload some of that real estate from your laptop device. Up into the small focus rooms, we've got various soundbar and wide angle camera solutions. Medium rooms, we step it up with the Huddly L1 just slightly narrower field of view, but an automated camera to hone in on participants in the space using facial detection. Now we start stepping into the large and high value spaces up the pyramid, and we start getting into one beyond. So there's a lot of overlap between these layers, right? It is kind of a best fit on a use case by use case basis. But we start getting into these one beyond type systems, and I'll show you exactly how those work. So this is the basic lineup. The auto tracker camera can act as a standalone camera, and this is that really high human-like presenter tracking, automated, follow them around the space. As people enter the tracking zone, it automatically picks them up. As they leave the tracking zone, automatically backs out, waits for someone else to enter the tracking zone. No one has to think about it. If it's set up properly, people just use the space and the far end gets a great experience. The auto framer camera crops into a specific group of people in the room, right? So it's a different kind of collaboration where you still want to see all the participants in the room, but you don't want a big wide angle camera with wasted space. We really want to hone in on the participants in the space. And I'll show you what that looks like with some videos in a minute. And then there's the Hawk automated camera solution, which is a dual camera, right? So it's queuing one up as people are talking, the next speaker starts talking, it queues them up, and when the last person stops talking, it takes automatically the next shot. So it's a nice, clean production style switch without seeing cameras moving around on the far end. We also offer some cost-effective presenter tracking with the Falcon ePTZ, meaning there's no moving parts, just has a very wide pixel canvas and it can digitally crop down to do the pan, tilt, and zoom. And then finally, in the very high end is the Automate VX solution for multi-camera voice tracking. And this can scale up to 12 cameras, right? So this is for your very high value spaces. You really want to capture, follow the action around that room. This is your solution, right? Leveraging SDI cameras and NDI cameras to a single output that we can then take into something like our Microsoft Teams room system or our Zoom room systems. Okay, so it really can take those disciplines that we've heard a lot about from other vendors of the Microsoft Teams room system and the Zoom room system and really blow out the boundaries of what kind of rooms that those can be applied to with a solution like this. Let's take a look at presenter tracking real quick. So this is a demonstration. So you can see on the auto tracker camera, you can, if you squint, right, you can see a very small fixed reference camera, which is always seeing the space, right? It's always seeing what's going on. It can see other participants enter and leaving the tracking zone. But then the pan tilt zoom action is what you're seeing on the left. And that's a very smooth human operator-like experience, which is totally automated. And this can be a standalone solution or used in concert with the Automate VX multi-camera solution. So that's probably the most common application. You'll have some regular PTZ fixed shot cameras in concert with an auto tracker for an active tracking zone, especially in situations like lecture halls or where someone is going to be standing and presenting and moving around. Moving on to the auto framer. So this is kind of a different take on it, right? So this is identifying or detecting faces in the room and cropping into the areas of interest. And as additional participants walk into the room, that fixed wide angle reference camera will see that that has happened out of frame and back out to include those additional participants. And as more participants enter the space, see someone waiting patiently outside the door. Looks like he just wrapped up lunch in a hurry, late to the meeting. You'll see the auto framer automatically adjust to that area of interest. And again, when the final participant is in there, it's going to zoom out and smoothly capture that area of interest. And the reverse is true as well, right? As people leave the space, it's going to readjust back down to the areas of interest in the room. All automated, no intervention, no control processor required. It just does what it does. Okay. Now we have the Hawk, which is a standalone conversation tracking camera. So this is a dual camera solution right? It's detecting voices on the horizontal plane to detect where voices are coming from. When it hears a new speaker, it's queuing up the next camera, and when the previous person stops talking, it takes that next shot automatically. So think of like a Barbara Walters interview, right? This is a very production style, natural, follow the conversation type of solution. And again, this is a standalone solution, which is great for a variety of applications. So what's best? It really comes down to what kind of meetings you have, what your furniture layout looks like, and pick the best solution based on that. The automated experience is Automate VX. So this is a combination of cameras, and again, up to 12, where we are using the microphones to detect where the voices are coming from and automatically frame up the shot and take the shot when appropriate. And that is when the previous speaker stops speaking. We can also support conversation mode with side-by-side images, pictures in pictures, a lot of compositing available with this solution to accurately follow the conversation around the room. This has become incredibly popular in C-suite type of boardrooms, right? Where we really want to follow the conversation around the room, right? You get these very long conference tables, and traditionally we would have had, a camera at one end of that conference table, and you kind of get this bowling alley effect. You're looking at a lot of sides of people's faces. But look what we've done in this room. We've kind of flipped it on its head. We put the displays on the sides of the room, right? And we put the cameras on the sides of the room facing the participants. So now we really foster a very conversational in-room experience. If I'm seated here and I'm talking to someone across the table, right? I got a camera shot that can pick me up very accurately, and I can also see far end participants and content in my sight line, in my line of sight, right? So no longer are we craning our necks down to the end of the table to be seen or to see the content or the far end participants. This really is meant to extend the in-person meeting to the far end and the far end into the meeting to make it a more natural conversational experience. And with that, there's a call to action. If you need more information or you want to investigate how these solutions might work in your organization, let us know. Visit Crestron.com. You can explore these solutions, or obviously engage your Crestron integration partner, Lightworks, and they'll be happy to work with us and work with you to work through these solutions. When it comes to One Beyond and Automate VX, we've got a whole dedicated team to help walk through what's best for that particular space. And we like to sink our teeth into those challenges. But like I said, a very, very popular solution as you start scaling these hybrid experiences up in space types. So with that, I'd love to open the floor up to any questions. Do you have any questions come in, Nicole, while I was yapping away? Let's take a look.
We do not. Actually, we have one question. No, we do not have questions at the moment.
Okay.
Actually, here's one.
Okay.
Availability. Can you please discuss availability?
Fair enough. Good question. So good news, the One Beyond technologies are a lot more available. We're on a multi-week lead time as opposed to a multi-month lead time with these One Beyond solutions. So that's fantastic news.
Excellent. Are your cameras mechanical, or do they use AI for tracking is another question.
So a little of both, right? They are mechanical in that they are a physical PTZ camera, and we've got some PTZ cameras with a 12-time zoom and some PTZ cameras for a 20-time zoom. Which is better? Neither one. It's just what's more appropriate for the application. How wide do we need those shots to be, or how far away are those participants? With the Automate VX system, we have a server system that we work in concert with the in-room microphones and DSP to automate these shots. So there is some upfront commissioning, but we do support multi-function spaces with multiple furniture configurations as well. It's all part of the commissioning process. And we can also work with delegate microphones, fixed microphones, if you've got a city council chamber with a dais. You know, obviously, if I'm speaking into a gooseneck mic on the dais, I'm in that location, and that camera can take that shot. So it's a little bit of both. Where the auto tracker is combined, there's a little extra smarts in that camera and the auto framer to detect faces, right? So they are seeing faces and automatically by themselves with no external intervention, cropping down to the shot.
Great. I have a request here. Can you please put back the slide that shows your various camera products?
Oh, sure.
Like
Yeah,
there are some definite interest
yeah, let me reshare that.
and specific, so maybe you want to speak more on that.
Yeah, and this really is a partial lineup. So this
Sorry,
is,
we can't see it yet, Matt.
oh no?
No,
Oh, sorry.
that's okay.
That extra step of actually clicking share. There we go. You got it now?
We do, thank you.
You got it. So this is the One Beyond portfolio, and these cameras right here with the Automate VX, those are a 12x PTZ and our 20x PTZ, also available in white. But these are often paired with the auto tracker camera depending on the solution. So if I went to a room like this, I would be using probably the 12x PTZ cameras, right? And the reason I have two of them is so that I can always queue up the next shot without seeing the camera move on the far end, right? So this is our room designer software where we're setting up the shots with our microphone locations, right? And let's just say, yeah, someone is speaking at seat 7 now, position 7 now, but someone starts speaking at seat 3. One of these two cameras, the one that's not actively sending out to the far end, is going to queue up that shot at seat 3. And as soon as seat 7 stops talking, it's going to take seat 3. Or conversely, right, on the other side of the table, we're always queuing up the shots, getting ready to go. And when the previous speaker stops speaking, we take the shot. And those are thresholds that can be set as well, right? Let's just say seat number 1, that's the CEO, right? So we can set a priority on that seat. So whenever he starts talking or she starts talking, we take that shot, regardless of who else may be speaking in the room, right? So we can set those priorities as well. So it's a combination of obviously the physical camera and the smarts in the Automate VX server. I'll just go back here to make sure we see all the solutions. Okay.
Thank you so much for revisiting that.
Yep. The auto framer and the Hawk, those are going to be standalone cameras. Okay. So those don't integrate with the Automate VX solution, but the auto tracker and the PTZs do. So it's the combination of the PTZ cameras and the auto tracker PTZ camera that creates an Automate VX solution.
Okay, I have another question here. Do any of the One Beyond cameras have a USB output, or does it require capture conversion, a capture conversion box? Are they Zoom or Teams certified?
That's a great question. So they are, in general, they're all SDI based. The Hawk does have a USB output, okay, but they are generally SDI based to work with the Automate VX solution. And the Automate VX solution has an SDI output, which does need to be converted over to USB, obviously, for use with a Teams or a Zoom system. So no, the cameras aren't certified, but the capture device is what we're looking at getting certified, because that's the thing that the Teams room system sees. And what we're trying to avoid is those errors in the Teams admin center of, hey, we got a unknown thing showing up here. So it's that capture piece that we are working on getting certified on our own, but they also work with other third-party SDI to USB capture devices at this time.
Thanks for that. Another question, can you provide an update on your showroom renovation in Cyprus? Are we allowed to visit again?
You can visit it. You can definitely visit it. We have a number of Teams room systems up and running, and they've never not been running throughout the course of the pandemic. We've been making some steady upgrades along the way, right? We've added content cameras. We've added the L1 in the larger conference space. And we're about to add additional technologies like One Beyond into those spaces as well. The main primary showroom is having features added to it all the time. We're going to have a residential wall added in, not that interests this crowd, but that is getting steady updates. So depending on the need, if we want to take a look at scheduling, if we want to take a look at our Microsoft Teams room solutions from small rooms to large rooms, it's ready to go.
Excellent. When will the capture device be certified?
Great question. I can't really give you an exact date on that. That is a pretty involved process. They don't take the certifications lightly.
Okay. The $1 million question. I know I asked a question about availability previously, and I'm going to go back there for one moment and ask, when will things start to improve in terms of Crestron availability and product? What can we expect?
They are improving. We have hundreds of thousands of square foot of factory ready to produce as soon as we get key components in. We have containers and containers full of components, but we're waiting for the specific components to actually build the product. But we are ready to pounce. We are seeing some deliveries shift earlier than expected at this time, and I expect that trend to continue throughout the next 6 months, that we're going to start seeing a lot of deliveries shift sooner than we have previously estimated, because all of a sudden we're getting unexpected supply from our suppliers. All of a sudden things are showing up in our docks that we didn't expect, so we can actually build the product. So the tide is starting to turn. And another note on that, we just recently released a slate of DM Lite products to supersede what we had previously released on the market. These products were designed from the ground up with the supply chain in mind, and they're readily available, right? Because they were engineered during the supply chain crisis, so they were engineered with more readily available components along the way. So I think that we have seen the worst, right? And lights will start emerging in various tunnels from here.